right, so we are moving to the interior of the brain. We've examined the outside. A few questions for us. Now we are looking at the brain interior, and as per usual, I made a couple mistakes. My bad. All right. The mistake I made, actually just one mistake. But what this is pointing at right here, which says the septum pellucidum, it's a little thin film that covers the lateral ventricle. It's actually supposed to be the same as this because this one is supposed to be lateral ventricle. Okay? We need to be able to identify this part coming over the top. This is the main connector between the two cerebral hemispheres. This is referred to as the corpus callosum. All right? Then if you look inferior to the corpus callosum, the bottom part of this is another area called the fornix. If we continue to move anteriorly, we will find this kind of circular region here, which is going to be the thalamus. And the hypothalamus, hypo means below, right? Under, less than, is actually going to be the region kind of just south of it. So this region here is going to be the hypothalamus. And if you saw, they told you on that one diagram, hypothalamus is the same as where we had mammillary body. So right here is going to be the hypothalamus, okay? Kind of just a region we point to. But that's an important region. I mean, really, it's a connector between where the pituitary gland was out here, the peanut-shaped thing. And then just posterior to the thalamus, you're going to see, and if you have a hard time seeing it, if you cut in half, what happens sometimes is you don't cut directly down the middle of the brain, and it might only end up on one side of the brain that you cut. But you should see kind of just a little kind of little ball here, all right, little sphere. And what that's going to be is our pineal gland, which is involved with secreting stuff called melatonin that you may have heard of. It's largely involved with our day-night cycles. So if you're anything like me and you get into the winter time when it's just dark constantly and you go through the day and you always feel tired. But then this time of year where we spring forward and we have more sunlight, it's like now I feel energized and awake, ready for summertime. Okay, a lot of that's to do with our pineal gland. But that's what we're identifying in here. We also can look back farther where we have the cerebellum. You're going to see a nice, funny, kind of tree-shaped structure in here, it almost looks like. I can't even draw a tree. But that's referred to as arbor vitae. A lot of the brain stems have been kind of destroyed on these, but what I what I told people I was talking to Lainey. If you want to take a look at the brainstem parts, which you should all do, okay, stop by over there. And I said, if you look from the posterior view of it, it almost looks like a little bodybuilder. You can see these little lines if you're looking. So here's the spinal cord, all right, and then it gets wider here, and there's kind of some lines going across that look like abs. And then there's kind of a couple areas here that almost look like pecs. The abs would, that's silly, would be the medulla part, the first widening. And then the pons would be the pecs. All right? And those from a side view, pons is going to be more anterior to the medulla. All right? We see those there. So although these aren't ones we labeled, they were on other parts. And we can continue to look as you get through here. Use curiosity. It is science. So if there's things that you want to check out, I would like you to quiz on some of this stuff. Me come around and make sure you know some of this stuff before you tear your brain apart. But you might be interested in following things like, all right, well, here's the optic chiasm here. Can I follow that path back to where it goes to the occipital lobe so I can find out where that visual cortex is, where our sense of vision actually gets processed, things like that. So kind of relate structures as you're looking at them as well. All right. We did also, if you see these terms, I didn't have you label these, but I was going to say, what was I going to say? Oh, so as we move up into this region, if you remember, there are three parts of the brain stem, Lauren. Three parts of the brain stem. Medulla, the pons, and the midbrain, right? I think on this packet it mentions cerebellum. But if we move up here and we see the superior colliculi and the inferior colliculi, if you pull the cerebellum down, you can see kind of a large, and it's actually a pair of them, um, kind of a larger circular structure, which is the superior colliculi, and then we have a smaller, flatter one underneath, which is actually the inferior colliculi parts of the midbrain. All right, so that's going to do the interior.